Maciej. I'll be the first speaker. I'm the organizer of this meetup. And Callum will be giving the second talk. I'll be talking about why we should build a decentralized world. First, some ideas, before we talk about the present, some ideas from the past. First was the idea of sovereignty, that every individual has it, and that we should have systems which maintain this sovereignty, and to give sovereignty to someone else is a good thing. Here is some philosophical ideas from the East about the perfect way, how to organize, how to lead and organize society is something, it says here, bears without owning them. You allow others to own something. You don't support too much. You don't exercise too much control. That means you facilitate sovereignty, and that should lead to prosperity and something which is sustainable a long time. So this idea was there more than 1,000 years ago, in the West as well. And before we go to the blockchain, a long time ago first, users got to write. Initially, only the user's government was allowed to use encryption, and individuals were not allowed to do so. So first, individuals they had to fight a battle, and they got allowed to send, even say, encrypted messages to each other. So that was still even before the blockchain, but that was the foundation. And then we want to see how can this be used to online, to send messages and money, and make money decentralized. And then Bitcoin was the first to prove that this is possible on a big scale, decentralized internet money. Where there was no double spending. So more than 10 years ago, it was just Bitcoin was the only. That was the blockchain. Then over time, so here at the beginning of time, you can see that's the blue color, that's Bitcoin. At the beginning of time, Bitcoin was all that was basically, the blockchain was Bitcoin. And here the blue graph, as it's kind of diminishing here in modern times, then we see that Ethereum emerged and some stable coins. But the value of the system grew like dramatically. But currently, it's actually here, this is just the top 10 cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin is like, well, this is just the distribution of the top 10. And then you can see that it's Bitcoin and Ethereum, these are the first and the second, they are there. And obviously we interested in Ethereum as the thing which makes the blockchain work, and we pay for things to run on the blockchain. All right, so now just looking back at the legacy of Web 2, which we will contrast with Web 3. And here's the dot-com boom, which was created the excitement around Web 2. And the excitement was about that the internet was supposed to empower people to create contents, to be co-creators, and then the applications were around the world. You would typically be as a user in a certain country, and quite often, even now, we have like prove we are human, like using Web 2, and we use username and password. But now, 20 years later, since this like dot-com boom, or 22 years later, we also realized the limitations of Web 2. That, for example, users really never own their data or digital assets. I mean, we actually, some corporation owns them for us. We don't actually own it. And then there's like opaqueness in many systems. We have no idea what's happening there. And that this Web 2 structure sometimes leads to abuse of power, corruption, censorship, protectionism, and sometimes stifles competitions. There are some things there which has emerged as obstacles, and sometimes lawmakers try to solve these problems. Anyway, so now we are now in modern times where the blockchain is being integrated into the fabric of society. So here are the principles of Web3. That the infrastructure that we use is inherently decentralized and impartial. And so no one can manipulate it. It's neutral. And it's transnational. It basically works like everywhere. And this sovereignty, which is so important, is there built in for everyone. Humans and bots, which can control the data, what you're doing, their assets. And in fact, there's a smaller difference here between humans and bots. Sometimes you can't tell them from one from another. And the cryptography gives everyone unlimited defense against attack. Someone trying to change your information, steal something you have. And only here we have like true direct ownership of data and digital assets. That no one can take your digital assets away from you. Only here's true ownership. And the blockchain is very transparent. And ideally, it should be used non-custodially. That means that you have an account where you hold your private key, and Colin is going to talk more about that. So one of the chains, of course, is Ethereum, and so what about decentralization? The state of the blockchain is decentralized, copied around the nodes. So even if some nodes go down, the blockchain keeps running. That's of course the idea. There are layer 1 blockchains here, you see. Bitcoin, Cardano, Ethereum, Avalanche, Solana. That have a certain security model that you can make applications for them. However, sometimes they are too slow or too expensive, so that's why we use layer 2. These are scaling solutions that make it viable to build applications which are basically have very low transaction costs, so they can be used for real-world applications. That's why we need layer 2. I think we see the Lightning Network, Polygon, Optimism, some of them. And the smart contracts is what runs on the blockchain. And they are amazingly neutral, and they're transparent, and typically you can see them as open source. So before you engage in that interaction with the blockchain, you can go and inspect, everything is transparent, and you can see other transactions that other people have used the same smart contract, and you can't manipulate it, it's there in the open. Is trustless. One of the applications of which are an important category of the blockchain are decentralized autonomous organizations, so-called DAOs, which are global, of course. It's like a group or a community or society, if it gets big, that lives on the blockchain, that has different participants, and it has a certain purpose. It's transparent, and it has certain goals, and the participants can vote typically on different things. And here are some examples. Uniswap, that's Colin going to demonstrate, MakerDAO, Ava are just three of these, and they prove to be very stable organizations. Yeah, and they basically transcend national borders. Centralized finance versus decentralized finance. Both are good, and in UK is obviously the world leader in centralized finance. None is good or bad, it's just different. So in centralized finance, or traditional finance, we could call it, it's a human organization. You talk to a person, oh, can I have this, can you do this? You follow certain laws and conventions, it belongs to a certain country, and someone is expected to audit something once per year, there's some regulation. Whereas what we're more interested in here is actually decentralized finance, which lives on the blockchain. That means that you see everything which is valuable as code on the blockchain. You can inspect it. In fact, as Ava, which has now, I checked yesterday, has like $6.6 billion locked. And you see where are they from, can you see through the whole system? Typically, code is slow, the rules are encoded as smart contracts, and they are typically open source. And you can inspect the assets in real time. So this is basically something which lives on the blockchain. That is decentralized finance, which is, and here we see today we have the $47 billion locked in decentralized finance, and here you see the top 10. So Aave, which I mentioned, is number 4 there in this list. So this is one of the things that you can use or build on the blockchain. All right, but then let's have a look at social networks. Here's the Meta share price. Maybe it's going down. That's the world of Web 2. But here, social networks in the era of blockchain. As an example, I've chosen the Lens protocol, which has actually 106,000 users. And actually, it's been growing quite a bit. And different Web3 apps can actually use the Lens protocol. And one of the most popular seems to be Lenster. So there you truly own your data, what you say, and no one can take it away from you. And actually, they can't censor you. The UI can censor you, but actually, you truly own your data. And the users are not like stealth monetized like on Facebook, like that the user is a product. Here, actually, you own and control your data, and you give free, explicit visual consent to, for example, buy or sell something. So it is a social network, but on the blockchain. So it's emerging as a completely different business model and user experience. All right. We can also think about other things in society which you think are not optimal, that you would like to improve. Sometimes these things can be built on the blockchain, and here also we have this company, Proof of Humanity, which provides you actually with a human ID on the blockchain for those applications that require that, because many do not. And they have like something which an experiment with universal basic income that you get if you kind of register for this Proof of Humanity. So this is an example of some kind of social invention. And so you can think, are there some other things in society which you think are not optimal that you would like to improve? Then just build that on the blockchain. All right, so that's the reason for why we should build the decentralized world. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we can have, is there any questions?
In terms of C5,
Yeah.
like FTX, well, in theory it should be things like an auditing,
Yeah.
but the reality later on could be really, really different. So I don't think that could be a advantage if you think about it on this case.
Yeah, so they need to have like a manual process. Actually, lots of processes for like self-monitoring, and there's basically like the normal operations and the self-monitoring, auditing, and so there's like and they have to do with some discipline and regularity. So yeah, whereas on the DeFi it's transparent, so it's kind of crowd-funded, this process of monitoring and then auditing is somehow it's crowd-funded because anyone can see and anyone can like analyze. So it is like it is crowd-funded to the whole world in a way. Yeah.
I'm just interested to hear what you think the problems are with Web3 and decentralized. You know, what are they, and how can we go about fixing them?
You mean the problems?
Yeah.
Is there any particular type of problems you have in
Like
mind?
scams, you know, not using ID.
Actually, so some.
FTX.
Oh, yeah, actually. Yes, I did mention FTX as in the category of centralized finance. That's actually not so in a way it has nothing to do with blockchain. In a way, and in fact, the solution there is basically then use something which is a decentralized finance and then which is being audited and transparent rather than centralized. That's I think is an approach. And this thing with scams, like it's about also like safeguarding your access to the blockchain. That's kind of very important, and kind of going to mention that just a bit. Yes, I think like the user should be educated to be able to critically like evaluate anything they see and then see if it's like authentic or something which pretends to be something else. I think so that's very critical again for the users to be educated. And sometimes we can't rely on this like centralized systems like which are supposed to give access to the blockchain, because sometimes they break down, or someone hacks them, or it turns out that they don't have money. So sometimes that's a danger to use this like centralized intermediary, because that intermediary might die, but the blockchain is doing fine. So then the users, which have like the skill to be able to access the blockchain themselves, they actually they are safe basically in those cases. So that's so something to educate users how to be able to control the data and their assets themselves on the blockchain. That's important. Anyone else? Right, in that case we continue with Colin.